Hi, welcome to The Promise of Hope. I'm Ellie Poltola, and I'm joined by Greta, Kayla, and Lizzie. And we're going to be talking about the project we work for and also our mental health journeys and the hope that we have. So, could one of you tell me a little bit about the Nan Project and, a little bit about what we do?
Sure. So the Nan Project is an organization that is focused on mental health promotion and suicide prevention, specifically in young people. So high school age, some middle school, some a little older than high school, but kind of young adults. And what we do most of the time, kind of our standard day, is going into a school and presenting some stories of folks like everyone that's here today, who have gone through some sort of mental health challenge. So that could be, a diagnosis of some sort of like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder. That could be some sort of trauma in their past. It could be LGBTQ identities, anything. We've all been through something. So we train some young adults up in how to present those stories in a way that is safe, in a way that inspires hope, in a way that connects with the students. And we take that team out to a school and we present that to a classroom and use that as kind of our jumping off point to start a conversation about mental health and about, what kind of supports exist in a school, what to do if a friend is struggling.
Nice. So how about we all kind of talk a little bit about ourselves. So let's, if you feel comfortable, I think all of us should share a little bit about, the mental health struggles that we went through. And why you think that your story is important for the Nan Project. So I can start. So for me, I struggle with self-harm. It's been something that I've struggled with for a very long time. And so that has always been my issue. I always had a lot of hatred towards myself. And I had a lot of issues with my body and my self-image. And so what I want students to take from my story is just basically that, to love yourself, love your body, love anything about you, and that you are loved in this world by at least one person. I think that a lot of people who struggle with how they view their image always forget that there's one person in that world that loves them. So, yeah. Do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So my biggest struggle was with an eating disorder. I've struggled with an eating disorder for about 7 years. And it really came from a place of feeling like I was undeserving or not valued. And it took me a really long time to kind of learn those lessons and come to peace with myself and who I was and my body. And I think what's really important to me about this project is sharing the power of hope and also that help does exist. I think when I was, in high school and even early on in college, I didn't really know the resources. I didn't know that I could get help. I didn't even know how to ask for help. So I really think going into these schools and starting these conversations at an early age really gets the students thinking and just learning and knowing that they don't have to be alone in whatever they're going through and that there are people who do care about them and genuinely want to help.
Yeah, I just say the same. Like, I felt alone a lot when I was diagnosed at 18. I didn't know what was going on with me. I had depression for a while. I felt different from my family and friends. And I had a lot of depression, but as the years went on, I learned healthy coping skills, and now I don't feel so alone, especially working with the Nan Project. There's so many other people that struggle with so many different things. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so I struggle with a lot of anxiety. And for a long time, when I didn't really understand that was anxiety, I thought that, I just had to keep going on with that, and that's how my life was always going to be. And when I didn't have any kind of healthy coping skills to deal with that anxiety, I turned to self-harm. And that all kind of came to a head in high school. I started really, really struggling, and it just got to a point where, I couldn't keep going. So I guess kind of my purpose in sharing that is to let people know that, first of all, you're not alone in what you're feeling. It can be so isolating to deal with mental health, but you're not the only one. And then also to encourage people to reach out for that help sooner, because as soon as I started letting people into my life and kind of being vulnerable with them, but asking for the help I needed, things started to improve so quickly.
What is one thing you guys like about the Nan Project?
Ooh, I'd have to say the warm community, like how warming everyone is, and they don't judge you, and you're allowed to be yourself without having like criticism or like judgmental comments. Yeah.
I think for me, one of the biggest things that I get out of it is being able to go into a school and share my story. It's empowering for me because I feel like if I can send a message of hope to someone who's struggling, it's fulfilling for me because it makes me feel like what I went through is, I can give back.
Mm. What led up to some of the struggles you faced? So like, for example, with me, I was really bullied. I was bullied for my looks, I was bullied for my hair, the way that I was figured, my shape, and so that just caused a lot of self-hatred towards myself. And self-harm became the way that I coped with all that hatred, is that I felt like I deserved to be punished. So I feel like that was kind of like the struggles that led up to me, is that I just had poor body image issues for such a long time, starting at elementary school. So I feel like for me that it started at a really young age.
I would say with Greta too, I had an eating disorder as well because I was depressed. So I used that as coping. So that was for me like how I cope with my depression, because I also too was bullied. So yeah, but now I try to view myself in a better light and to love myself no matter what size I am. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
I definitely didn't know how to vocalize how I was feeling. And I felt like a lot of things in my life were going great, so I felt like I didn't have a reason to be as sad as I was. So I didn't know how to talk about it. And I felt so broken inside and really felt like I wasn't good enough. I think there were standards that I put on myself in some perfectionistic thinking. And so with my eating disorder, I wanted to lose weight because I didn't know how to vocalize how I was feeling, but I felt like if I lost enough weight, maybe someone would notice that things weren't okay inside.
Yeah, I can really identify that with that, not even knowing how to vocalize what's going on in your head. And I'm sure it was so frustrating for some of the people around me who cared about me and just wanted to help. But at the time, like I was, even in high school, like just these really, really strong emotions just by virtue of like that's where I was developmentally. And then the mental health challenges as well. And I just didn't have the language to talk about it. So even though I had all these people that wanted to talk about it, I didn't even know like how to put words to it. And that's a process and that's a skill that I've since learned. But it was really hard to even reach out because I couldn't, put a name to what I was going through.
Did any of you feel like you learned something through the struggles that you went through? Yeah? Lizzie saying yeah?
Yeah. I think like the self-awareness was huge. Like I think a huge part of therapy for me was like not stuffing down those feelings that were icky and were, causing me distress. And instead of, saying, I can't feel that way. Like, that's not normal. I shouldn't feel that way. Why do I feel this way when I have all these good things going for me? There's no reason to worry. Why am I worrying? Instead of, getting down on myself for that, I now have the awareness of, yeah, you did have those thoughts. That's okay. If you don't want to, give time and space to them right now, you don't have to. You can keep moving. You can do other things and just not, instead of pushing it all down until it boils over, now it's kind of like I acknowledge it a little bit at a time, and it's gotten so much easier to cope with.
That's awesome.
I learned that I didn't always have to numb out. I think my feelings, kind of as Lizzie said, were often like very overwhelming as a teenager, and I didn't know how to deal with them, so I buried them. And now I don't have to do that. It was a learning process. Like I had to learn that it was okay to cry, and it was okay to be angry, and it was okay to say that instead of holding it all inside. That was a big part of learning how to get my voice back.
I learned to stop being so stubborn and to go and get help. Like, I got this. I can do it all by myself. Like, I realized, like, I really can't do this all by myself. I need the support. I need to get therapy and the proper medications and stuff. So, yeah, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Interesting question. What is one thing you would tell your younger self, or one thing that you wish your younger self, like, knew?
To not care what people think about you.
Yeah, I would encourage myself, so, younger Lizzie, like, get the help sooner, go to therapy sooner. Like, it's just like, you can't navigate it all by yourself, especially like so young. I think it's really, really hard to navigate your own feelings and the way that, your mental health affects relationships and all of that. So like, I just needed someone else like in my corner. And that's what my therapist was for me. So I wish I had gone sooner. That's what I would tell.
I think I'm kind of like similar to Kayla. Like, I wish I wasn't so stubborn. Like, I literally had so many supports in my life, and I like pushed all of them away on purpose, and I didn't want to be around anybody, and I didn't want help from anybody. And it took me such a long time to accept the help, and I was like so rude to my providers because I literally did not want their help. And I just did everything possible to try to figure it out on my own, and clearly you can't do that, and you need help, especially when you're really struggling. So I'm glad that it finally clicked in my head that I needed
What
help.
changed it? Like, what made it click for you guys?
Knowing that there are so many supports and doctors, and if there were no doctors or support, then why would they do the job? Obviously, they're here. There's people here to help you, like when you're going through things. Yeah.
For me, I was just so sick of like being just surrounded by so many different providers, so many different mental health agencies, being in hospitals. Like, I just was so sick of it. It gets really tiring, and I really was like, I'm at such a low point, and clearly me pushing them away is not doing anything. And so I was like, you know what? I think I'm actually going to try. And the second that I actually started to put effort in it, like, my whole life changed. And, like, I grew so quick on my recovery.
I wanted like freedom from the voices in my head and like the kind of tapes that play. For me, at least, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, no one loves you, you're alone, no one cares. I wanted freedom from those obsessions and that style of thinking. Not to say, you know, oh, it's gone and I'm all better, but I have ways to challenge that now.
So what keeps you going on the hard days? Like, do you have, not like what is like a skill, but like, do you have a motto or a saying that like keeps you going, or something in this world that keeps you going? For example, for me, it's my friends. I have such good friends, and I'm so glad that I found good friends who actually care and love me. And those are the people who are like my closest supporters, I feel like, because, you know, you have a different relationship with your friend than you would with a parent or with a therapist. They just kind of know more about you. And my friends have always been so good to me, always been by my side throughout all of my mental health. And like, I literally am so grateful for those people. So like, my friends are what keep me going.
Nice. I came up with like a quote. It's that I go by is, "Today may not be enough, however tomorrow might be." So that
Love
keeps
it.
me going. Yeah.
It's helpful for me to remember that, like, and I think a lot of people that we work with have incorporated this into their recovery in some way, but that healing isn't linear. And that's somebody's quote. I don't know who came up with it, but you know, that you can have those days where you're really, really down, and that doesn't mean you're not recovering, you know? And so that's helpful for me to remember, because sometimes a bad day just hits you out of nowhere and you're like, what was that? You know, like, I'm doing everything right. And sometimes you're going to do everything right and you might have a bad day, but you're still on that upward trajectory anyway. And it doesn't take away all of the things that you have done when you have one bad day.
There's another quote too. It's a bad day, not a bad life. Yeah.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, I really think it's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
and you know, it's a continued journey, which is always important. And you know, I always take things one day at a time, and sometimes I have to break it down to like 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, one meal at a time. And I'm trying to learn that that's okay. That, you know, if I need to slow things down, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, question that I love, just because I love to get more ideas, but a favorite coping skill. Actually,
Ooh.
could one of you explain what a coping skill is?
Sure.
Is that me? I think, I mean, you guys can add to this, but a coping skill is basically anything that brings you from that place where you're a little too high up, you're a little too low down. How do you bring yourself back to that middle? How do you get through the thing that's bothering you so much? And that could be basically anything, as long as it's serving that purpose. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
I really like thinking of it as like, so everyone has kind of an emotional window of tolerance. So like, you know, you have a level here and a level here. And if you're outside of your window of tolerance, you won't be able to deal with anything that life's throwing at you, because you're either super escalated or you've numbed out. So coping skills to bring you back within that window. And kind of like what Lizzie said, it really can be anything it could be as simple as like walking your dog, you know, or taking a shower, but something that, you know, is personal to you that brings you, de-escalates you in some way.
Yeah, it kind of ties in with self-care, like coping skill and self-care, taking care of yourself, feeling grounded, feeling okay and good enough to keep going. For me, self-care is very important. So one of my coping skills is like fitness and going for walks on a sunny day. So yeah, doing something that makes you feel happy. I think that's what a coping skill is like.
Yeah.
For me, I really like art. That's a really great way of expression for me, especially, you know, if I can't talk, if I don't know how to talk about how I'm feeling, drawing out how I'm feeling sometimes helps.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I'm big into meditation. I have to go for guided meditation because I haven't been meditating long enough yet that I'm like so zen that I can just do it by myself. I'll like something, you know, I know, but something will come up and I'll stop. So I have to have someone walk me through it. But that's okay. There's lots of apps, there's lots of videos, and so I'll kind of pick like a 10-minute. Okay, this, you know, another person who has gone through like all of this training will teach me like, okay, breathe in right now, breathe out right now, picture this, you know, relaxing imagery, take time to acknowledge the thoughts that are going through your head, but let them pass, like all of those little tips. And, you know, I always have 10 minutes, you know, whatever's going on, there's always 10 minutes to kind of get yourself back, so.
Can I ask you a question about your meditation? Have you ever meditated like while you were driving? Like if you were in a situation where you were feeling worked up and you were in the car and you just turned on meditation, like have you done that before?
I wouldn't, so I like the ones where you like have to like close your eyes and everything, so like, yeah, but I think there is an aspect of meditation that you can carry on into your daily life, and I think that's kind of like the goal that most people work towards. So like a breathing technique, like you can use anytime, like you might do it during meditation, but like just like being mindful of your breath and breathing in and breathing out. I definitely do that when I'm like nervous, like if I'm in the car and someone's, you know, driving a little, someone's tailgating me and I'm like, okay, like, you know, like I'm not fully like meditating, but I think those skills like carry on into different areas of my life because I've noticed myself like kind of breathing in, breathing out, and all that jazz.
For me, like honestly, I don't have like a set skill. Like for me, it has to be any sort of distraction. For example, the other day I have an apartment, I was home alone. I literally cleaned my whole house because I was home alone and I just had too much free time. So what I had to do was just clean my whole house. It gave me something to do. And so I, you know, going through my journey, I really figured out that, you know, being alone is kind of not good for me. It's almost like I need to have something going on or else my brain won't shut off. It won't stop talking to me. And my brain can say some crazy things to me. So what I've learned over the past few years is just that I have to keep myself busy. I have to be productive because if I have too much free time, that's just not, you know, beneficial for me.
Yeah.
So my last question is basically, what's some advice that you guys would have for someone who's struggling with mental health issues?
It's okay to get help. Don't feel embarrassed or ashamed. There's people to help, and yeah, just be vocal about it. And there's people who do care, whether it's a friend, a sister, a doctor, a therapist. There's always someone out there that will listen to you, will understand, and will try to help you.
I like that.
It's okay to get help. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I would want a young person to take away would be that they're not alone, that they don't have to do this alone. And I often, when we do speak in the schools, I often say, you know, there may be peers in this classroom who are going through the same thing as you and you have no idea. So just to know that, you know, it's okay to talk about it and you don't have to do it by yourself.
Exactly.
I like that too.
Yeah, and I think the last, like the thing I would add on to what you guys said, because I love that, but to keep trying, and the first thing that you try might not be the thing that, you know, that works the best for you. And that doesn't mean that it didn't work and that you're not doing what you need to do. It's a process of finding out, like, what are the coping skills that support me the best? Who are the people that support me the best? What, you know, if you're doing therapy or medication, what is that balance that really works for me? And that probably won't come overnight. But as long as you're working, you will see those improvements, and you will kind of figure out what that best formula is for you.
Right, because what works for you might not work for me.
Exactly, and I can't tell you, hey, do this. If someone did all the same things that I did, it might not work for them, even if they're dealing with this, you know, something very similar. So to just kind of figure out what works for you and keep trying things.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Thank you for watching The Promise of Hope. We are the Nan Project, and if you want to check us out, go to www.thenanproject.org.